Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Power Monday. Today we have a special edition. It's called the Founders Edition. But as we are waiting for more people to come online on the workplace as well on Zoom, just a quick catch up and just a quick check-in with everyone here. Now, if your location or where you are staying right now is in the FMCO location or in the EMCO location, if you are in the FMCO location, please type FMCO. If you are in an EMCO location, please type EMCO. Let's see where everyone is right now. Okay. If you're in FMCO, put FMCO. If you're in EMCO, put EMCO. Wow, we've got a good majority right now. I'm seeing a lot of EMCOs. Right. A lot of people are in EMCO right now. Right. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm one of the few fortunate people to be in FMCO location. But what is that one thought that you have, one feeling that you have, or one emotion that can describe how you feel about where we are right now? And put in the chat box. What is that one emotion, one thought, one feeling that describe best how you feel about where you guys are right now? Just put in the chat room. Either you're in EMCO or you're in FMCO. Anyone, put it on the chat room, please. What is that one good thought or good feeling? Never ending. Okay, what else? What is that one thing that best describe lost focus? That's best describe where you are right now. Always good. Okay, lost focus, always good. I'm okay. Awesome. What else? How does that describe where you are right now? Pray. We have to help ourselves instead of waiting for others to help. Okay, good. What else? What is that one thought or one emotion that best describe where you are in the state of this season that you are in right now? We are all in right now. Okay to be not okay, disappointed, patient, hope for the best, opportunity, always need to realign myself, frustrated, can't go for viewing, looking and staying relevant, be tenacious, opportunity of the time, worry for those daily wages group, survival mode, COVID cases around, tired, mixed feelings, cannot explain, occupy our time to learn more. Right. Silently optimistic. Oh, I like that. I'm silently optimistic. Now, it's important for us to know where we are, what state of mind we are in, and what state of the reality that we are in as well. And I think this is a season, in my opinion, in terms of business or even my journey personally, I believe is one of the, for me personally, is one of the most darkest time to be in. It is really very dark, where the possibility of seeing hope becomes sometimes very challenging. The ability to see the light at the end of the tunnel is really, really very challenging in some of these times right now. And I'm speaking for myself here. And I think it's generally a lot of people may be feeling that way, but there are also opportunity for us to relook at how can we dig deeper and find that light in the end of the tunnel. But today I wanted to bring in a very, very special guest who is not really a guest, but he's really if I can describe it in a simple way where everyone can understand. He was the person that founded this organization with you. So in other words, he's kind of like a father to all of us, right? And I thought today would be a good opportunity and a great time to bring David Ong here to come and speak to us and share some of his heart and some of his journeys in life. And I think he always have a very good perspective, and he's always a man of few words, but words that make sense and that brings a lot of wisdom and understanding to the times such as this. So I thought maybe today is good for us to hear from him. He's got a great heart. He's got a awesome family. So David, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. So David, I always see you as a person of very fulfilled. Right now, from my observation, looking at knowing you for, I think, 12 years right now. Personally, I counted yesterday how many years I knew you. So 12 years already. And I seen you to live a life of fulfillment, not necessarily lavish, but fulfilled, right? You've got great family, you've got awesome wife. So if the wife is listening, you are awesome. Three great daughters, and you also have, what do you call that? Grandchildren right now, right? And I always see that, wow, that's a good life. That's a good model to have in terms of how to have a fulfilled life in that season of your life. But let me quickly ask you here right now, it didn't all like that. It wasn't like that from the beginning in your life. Would you agree that life was not, it didn't started that way?
Yeah.
It's something that it came as you go along the way, right? So can you share in your journey, what was the darkest moment in your life?
Thanks, John. I think one of the things I would like to say is that I've gone through quite a number of storms and crises in my 60 plus years of life. And I can name some of them very quickly, like the recession of the 1980s, the Asian financial crisis of the 1990s, and then today it is the COVID-19 as well. And also in between, obviously, there are many other battles and storms running a business that one would face. And I really think that is the storms of life is not if, it is when will it come. And I think I say this because I want to manage people's expectations, those who are hearers today. Storms will definitely come. It is only when and how often. But for my life, I think the darkest moment in my personal life is when in the mid-70s, I became a heroin addict. When I was young, I was quite a lost kid, and I didn't do well in my studies. I failed my Form 3, and then I went to a private school and passed my qualifying test, and then I went to Form 5, and I only passed English and Geography, thank God. That's why today I can speak to you in English. Otherwise, I will be speaking to you in tongues. You won't understand. And lost kid without a purpose, and I remember shifting from a place called Kampung Atap, where I was born and bred, somewhere close to Chinatown, to this new place called Bukit Bandar Raya in Bangsa, where I got to know new friends and eventually drifted into bad company. I really think when a person doesn't have a clear purpose and mission in life, you oftentimes drift. Very likely you will drift. And I was a drifter because I never had something clear in my life. And so when I saw people smoking, I picked up the habit of cigarette smoking. When I saw people drinking, I would also drink. And when I saw people smoking ganja, I would also smoke ganja. Of course, today ganja in many countries are legalized. And I'm thinking about the business. No, I'm just kidding. And I don't know, and some people send to me stocks to pick, and they say marijuana is the stocks to pick. I shake my head, that really nearly killed me. And then eventually I saw people spiking cigarettes into cigarettes to a white powder, and I knew it was heroin. I was a lost kid, and I was like very willing to be directed in life. Maybe at that time I wanted a sense of belonging. I was lost, and so I eventually understood what withdrawal pains were when I didn't smoke the white powder, and in no time I began to realize I was hooked to heroin. And in the 70s, let me say this for those who may not know and understand the world of drugs. At that time, heroin purity was very high, and it was also pretty cheap. You could get one capsule or tube for about 2 ringgit, and then later on it went up to 4 ringgit. All right, but it was very pure, and therefore, when you don't have the drugs, You will have running nose, you have pain all over, you will find it hard to breathe, and the moment you smoke, everything will just hit you from the top to the bottom as though like it's a miracle drug. And then it will give you an euphoria, but it captivates you and it really chained me to it. And so my life deteriorated, and I would reckon that to be the darkest moment in my life, because I deteriorated in my relationship with my family. I lost trust because I borrowed, I stole, I shoplifted, you name it, I would think about it because heroin was my idol or my God. I had to feed this habit, because if I don't feed it every day, I will suffer physically, literally, and mentally as well. And I really think there's a spiritual aspect to heroin addiction or any kind of addiction. And so I grieved my parents. They found out eventually, and they asked me to give up. I went to private clinics just to please them. I remember my first visit to the private clinic, I took methadone. The doctor gave me methadone, which is a synthetic drug to heroin. And I never took it. I would continue on in my habit as and when I could smoke, but eventually it definitely led to an everyday affair because I was in love with heroin. It was my darling, it was my mistress, it was my wife, it was my God. And so petty crimes was a common thing in my life, and nobody trusted me, but I was pressured to give up. And I have been to a BOMO before. Actually, my late dad, who has passed away some years back, at his time in the 60s and the 70s, he was a very influential person. If you talk about government officials, even up to the prime minister and so forth, police, top police officers, my dad would know them, and the dark world would also know him because they asked him for help. But there was this saying that I heard from one of his friends who came and told me quietly. He said there is a saying going around. My late dad's name is Jimmy Ong. He said Jimmy Ong can help many people, but Jimmy Ong cannot help his son. And so that was the story floating around. And my dad knew was a good friend to the first UMNO Secretary General, Dr. Sunu bin Abdul Rahman. And Dr. Sunu told my dad that, there is this BOMO in Datuk Kramat that is very well known for healing drug addicts. And I went there, and the BOMO started chanting over me and putting ink on my back and in my front. I just lied down on the floor. I think it was Datuk Kramat is a kampung till today. And gave me some water to kind of wash my face, chant something. I can't remember. This was over 50 years ago. And he warned me that if ever you smoke heroin back, you will find blood oozing out of your nose, your eyes, and your ears. And one day I couldn't stand it. I started smoking heroin. And then I blew out. I was thinking blood will come out, but no, only smoke came out. And I was back to my habit. Relapse is a very common word in the life or in the world of addiction. And I was no different. I fell back many, many times in spite of the severe withdrawal pains I went through and I experienced. There was another top police officer that told my late dad, who was a very good friend of my late dad, he said there is one guy who runs a private drug rehab center in Penang in a place called Batu Mau. And he said this guy had spent many years in Pulau Jerajak because he was an ex-gangster chief. But today he's helping people with this kind of problems. But the method that he uses, he gives you Chinese herbs, which I believe had some opium inside to help us go through our withdrawals. But the method he used was that if you ever smoke back, if you go through his program, they will beat you up, they will catch you and they will beat you up. They use gangster way and they will instill fear in you. So I was there for about 40, 50 days, and the whole place, the bungalow was, I think, catering to about 50, 60 people, very huge bungalow in Batu Mau. And I remember getting to know more of the people in the underworld. And eventually I saw people being beaten up. They were picked up from Penang and they were purposely beaten up right in front of all of us, just to tell you that if you ever fall back, this is how we are going to treat you. But I realized that the fear of being beaten up was not as strong as the power of heroin. And so when I went out and finished my 40 to 50 days program, I got to know now more people in Penang and who were all in the dark world. And then later on, I also went to smoke with them. I found out that the Penang heroin is much better than those in Petaling Street, cheaper and purer. So I grew worse. And I found people were not afraid of being beaten up. And so again, I relapsed, then I came back to Kuala Lumpur. I've been to private clinics where I spent about a week. And then I come out, it's back to the same old story. My parents would really grieve. One day I remember my dad, I think he had some drinks and he came back. He was very sad, and he told me in the dining hall, I still remember there was no one there, just between me and him. And he looked at me and he cried. And he said, I really don't know how to help you. He admitted, I don't know how to help you. And he told me, there were times he told me, he said, I wish you could be drinking beer with me rather than be on drugs. I can supply you with free flow of beers. And when he told me that, it was not that I didn't have any feelings, but I was just as lost. I couldn't even help myself. And so there was a really deterioration of relationships, family relationships, breakdown. It was really a dark moment.
How many years, how long was this? Like what age were you in roughly, and how long was this period of time?
I think I started into this world somewhere in 73 to 74. And eventually I went into a Christian drug rehab or faith-based drug rehab in 1977. Yeah, so it was about 3-4 years of this kind of life. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was the darkest moment was because I came to a place. I remember I told somebody, and somehow it went to my dad's ears. I said, I believe I will live an addict. I will die an addict.
So there was no way at that moment, in that darkest period, there's no sight of any light. It's like you have sort of somehow imagine yourself at that moment that this is going to be the rest of your life.
Yes, that was the feeling. I didn't see any future. I don't know what to do. It was also, John, you must understand that sometimes drug addiction is something that gives you a high. People say addiction, whether it's pornography or even drugs, it is the problem of the brain as well. It definitely activates certain part of your brain that gives you a high that you like to go back as well. But at the same time, this is a slow death. This is something destructive, but it is like you are in a dilemma. You don't know what to do.
Okay. So in that moment of darkness, of hopelessness, of stuck in that situation, what helped? What were some things that changed and helped you to begin to see some light? What were some of the things that you went through that helps you to begin to see the light? Because that's not what's happening right now. We know 40 years down the road where we are right now, that's not your life anymore. So what was that beginning that helped you see through where you are right now?
I really think in my darkest moment, I have to say to a certain extent my dad, but more so my late mom never gave up on me, right? She began to be, maybe if I may say, more religious and started turning to God because she also found that asking around for human help has got limitations. And I think I really agree with that, And so she never, I believe she never gave up praying for me because I'm the only son in the family. I got 4 older sisters. And she never I believe, stopped seeking help for me. And I remember there was a time where I went to Singapore because the psychiatrist said, get away from your environment. And I went there and she was with me over the 1-2 months where I was staying with these wonderful, supportive relatives who allowed me to stay in their home just for me to tide through my issue of addiction. And obviously within the 4 walls of a home, I was oftentimes clean. But the moment you let me go, my heart never changed. The environment may be new, but my heart never changed. All right, there is this somehow this call of addiction that wants me to go back, and I can't help it. And so, what helped me support me this through was that I think my mom never stopped seeking and asking people for help, and I think through some church leaders, they organized one meeting for me. Sometime in 1975 or 76, I think, where there were about 5 men who sat in a dimly lit room after dinner. I remember we went there. I actually didn't even know what meeting I was going into, and they began to share with me the story of how their lives had turned around and transformed. And I found out later on that they were all ex-Changi prisoners. One was an ex-gangster chief, one was in there for CBT, criminal breach of trust, another couple of others was for other types of crime. But when they were talking to me that evening, they were each telling me their individual stories of how God turned them around. And I believe that gave me some glimpse of hope, because I think for me at least, and I think for everybody it should be, to see fruits in people's lives are very important. There are many people who can talk, but I think it is so vital for us to see results, to see the fruit of what people say. And I saw them that evening there telling me how their lives have turned around, and today they are normal citizens in Singapore. And many of them have got families and children as well. And I told myself, these guys who were all formerly in the Changi prison and today they can be like this, I believe, maybe secretly and quietly, I believe there was some hope for my life.
Right. And in that meeting, you saw that hope. And what else happened? What happened that you made a decision that day there's hope?
Yes, I believe the stories of these men inspired me, motivated me, and at least I could see some light at the end of a tunnel. And so they shared with me the story of Jesus Christ. They shared with me about God, and they told me how their lives were transformed. And basically, they asked me, David, would you like to open your life to the Lord Jesus Christ? You know, and I remember I had no relationship with God. I don't know this Jesus Christ personally. And I only could whisper a kind of a silent prayer in my heart, where I remember saying this. I say, God, if you are really real, please show me. And then I said a prayer that I parroted after this man who was an ex-gangster chief called Ramalingam. And after finishing the prayer, asking God to come and forgive me and inviting him to enter into my life, I felt a sudden surge of happiness or joy for the next couple of hours. And that gave me, at least for my own life, that conclusion that this Jesus that these people were talking about is very real. And I decided that I wanted to investigate further.
Right. And fast forward, you went into a life seeking God and understanding that's important. At the same time, you also went through some rehab program that helped you to get out of this dark tunnel, right? Tell us a little bit about what you went through in that rehab program.
I think even as I just shared with the audience here, that at that time I had what I would call a conversion experience. I came to encounter God through Jesus Christ, and I felt a surge of joy. And I concluded that this God must be real to me. I respect everybody's faith here, but I'm sharing my story now. And so but I felt that I needed further help because between that time of what happened, and then I stayed with a family for 1 month as they tried to help me grow in this faith, I realized that temptations of life is still very real. I still thought about heroin once in a while. I stopped for about a month or so. I also quit cigarette smoking. But I remember one time I found a 10-cent coin and I went down to the coffee shop and I quietly bought 1 stick of cigarette, and I smoked. So temptation was also very real. And so when I came back to Kuala Lumpur and somebody told me that there was this new faith-based rehabilitation center that's helping drug addicts go through in life and help grow them, asking me whether I would consider going in, I really felt at that time that I needed further strengthening. I needed further growth, just like anything else. I needed to be developed. I needed to be trained. I needed to know this God. I needed more time for people to help me build foundations in my life. And so I was 2 years in this drug rehab center. And 2 years was about learning the Bible. It was about community living. It was about, and I can say this, a lot of it has to do, if it is a process or program that I had to go through for resetting, I would think even for today, any one of us in any issues, it is the resetting of the mind. It is what sometimes people call the renewal of the mind. If the mind is not renewed, your heart very unlikely will even ever change. Your life will not be transformed. And so my old narratives have to be taken out and to be replaced by new narratives that are going to help me live this new life and a good future without drug addiction. And so there were people who stayed with us, and there were about 10 over addicts and maybe about 5, 6 workers who was helping us, and they counsel us, they train us. And over time, they give us new narratives that we say, not bad. Huh? I think eventually a life without drugs can be a wonderful life. Because when I was on drugs, the drug addiction life was the only life I knew. And that was the only life I thought I'm going to stick to through for the rest of my life.
Right. And you talk about renewing, you talk about basically removing the old thoughts, removing the old understanding of what life is, and replacing it with a new belief system, with a new mindset, with new content, right? Can you share with us on a daily basis because it's not something you can do it overnight. You can't in one day make that flip of switch and say, I want to change new content right now. I'm going to remove my plug and put in new thing. It doesn't work that way, right? So what are the daily things or the daily habits that it took you to really went through a proper reset?
People in the world will say this is called indoctrination.
Right.
In China, they are accusing them of a certain group of people indoctrinating them. But for me, at that point of time, we were learning the Bible. And through the Bible, which we believe as Christians is God's truth, we were seeing ourselves in a new light and in a new perspective. We were taught about the love of God towards us. I believe every addict, at the heart of it, in its root cause, is a sense of worthlessness. Because many addicts of all kinds are wounded people emotionally, rejected people, emotionally abandoned people, not healed, not touched, not loved. Most of the time, majority come from dysfunctional family. And so I believe the word of God really helped me to see who I really am and how this God loved me so much and reached out to me rather than I reach out to him.
Right.
And forgiving me of my sins, restoring me to a relationship with the Heavenly Father. And so I think all these things plus the people there demonstrating and expressing that love to me and to another 10, 12, 15 other guys, I can't remember the numbers, was also in many ways seeing God in skin. It is very easy to talk about an invisible God, but really, if you ask me, I am really thankful for all these men. They were very young as well, who were willing to give their life and sacrifice their life for that season of time to work among drug addicts. And I oftentimes ask the question, why would they want to do that? Staying with a bunch of people like us who are very raw, come from all different backgrounds and very tough people, very messy people, and people that needs to be straightened. And it takes a lot of patience to work with messy people like me many years ago. And so I believe I saw the love of God through the lives of these men. And I think that really touched me as well.
Right. So it was the environment of people willing to serve one another, the environment of course, there's a strict discipline regime that you have to go through every day, I assume.
Yes.
Yes. Can you talk a bit about what's that strict regime that you have to go through, like the daily routines that you have to do, or what are the, I know you have to serve other people as well. What do you do on a daily basis?
I think it is a very structured program, meaning we have to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we will have to do, we will have to wash up, and then we will have to, what you call, you do personal devotion, spending time reading the Bible, spending time relating to God, having conversations with God, praying. Some people use that word. And then after that, have breakfast. And then after that, we have what you call some house chores to even teach us the importance of carrying out our responsibilities. And then after that, group devotion, where somebody will share some inspirational stories, either from the Bible or just encouraging us. And then over time, it will come to lunch. Then we will have our lunch, then a time of siesta, and then in the afternoon, we will have what you call International Correspondent Institute courses, where they will teach us on families, we will teach us on marriage, and many other topics and stuff. And then by about 4:30, a little bit of tea time, and then we will have our volleyball session or table tennis, until about 6:30, bathe, wash up, get ready for dinner. And then evening, we will have some assignments given to us where there will be some verses from the Bible that we need to think about and expound. When you want a mind that is renewed, you got to sow into areas that will help renew the mind. It is just like today, if somebody wants to get into the Keller Williams system and say, I don't want to read MREA, it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And so our structure was quite tight. There was a time for everything. And for us, former drug addicts, we needed that kind of structure. We needed that kind of discipline. And discipline is so very important for us to succeed in life. And I think because we were under a structured program was because we were highly indisciplined people. And so we needed that for a season of time to kind of form us to a certain extent. And I also remember they actually administered, that means to say they made sure that we adhere to the structured program, and they administered what I would call tough love. Meaning, for example, one time there was this worker that slept next to me, and he told me very gently, he said, David, I have been noticing you have been waking up about 1-2 minutes later than 6 a.m. because I'm sleeping next to you. He said, tomorrow, if you wake up just 1 minute more, I'm going to pour cold water on your face. And guess what? Next day, I also woke up late and he poured cold water. Today, this guy is a very good friend of mine. Do you know why? Because he administered tough love to me. And I'm so grateful to him because he helped me in this process of character formation. Character formation is so vital for long-term success. It is what is made of you in the inside.
Right. And how long does this whole process help you to kind of renew your mindset and had that reset? How long did it take you to come to this, where you are broken away from the old habits and you are now ready to be reset into back to society? How long did it take you to go through this process?
I think life change is really a lifelong process. I really think so. I think the time of 2 years to 3 years in the drug rehab at best gave me a fairly good foundation. But it was definitely no formula for that to last me for the next 40, 50 years. I don't think so. I really think in life, we always need to believe that it is a lifelong learning. It is a lifelong teachability. It is a lifelong humility to be willing to have inputs into your life, constantly improve, have accountability partners, have mentors in your life, you know. So at best, that 2-3 years was very good to help me go through a certain period where at least I knew that I would not want to go back to cigarette smoking or drug taking. That's for sure, because one of the nights I remember when I was lying down in the drug rehab alone with the rubber foam just bought from Pasar Malam, then, that's how we sleep. Very simple. And somehow I believe God just prompted my heart to think like I'm never wanting to go back even to cigarette smoking, because to me, that is the gateway to other things. Now, I'm not condemning people here who smoke cigarettes. There are about maybe 200 people here or so, right? But I'm just telling my own story. Because for me, I cannot just take cigarette and don't go to other things. I was weak at that time. But I think that 2-3 years helped me type through some of these major areas of my life that I wanted to stay far from the world of addiction, because it nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. And I told myself I'm not going to come close to it by the help of God.
Right. Now, is it fair to say that people that go through your journey, go through the dark journey, statistics are not in their favor that they will come out victorious?
Definitely.
Would you agree to that statement?
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
100%. There are sayings that say once an addict, always an addict, right? Of course, it's not true. But I think people come up with such statements is because the failure to help the addiction world, whether even if it is substance abuse or even pornography or online games or many other types of addiction today, I think seriously, unfortunately, I think the success rate for addiction, if you look at the word called addiction, it is a very captivating thing. It is what you call a bondage. It is like tying a noose around your neck and you are beholden to the person who holds that. Right. So it's never an easy thing to come out. And right. I'm very thankful and blessed.
Yeah. Right. But it's possible.
It is possible.
The odds are against us, but the possibility is there, the hope is there, the opportunity is there. Definitely. Now let's fast forward and switch gears a little bit back to your business journey. Now you've gone through that whole thing, and let's fast forward right now. You built a fairly successful business for the past 30 over years. What are some of the lessons that you learned in those dark times that you went through just now, where you were so openly sharing with all of us here, that you are applying in your current journey or in your journey of growing a business? How has that helped you? What are the lessons that you learned?
I think if today anybody goes through dark times, I would say the darkest hour is just before the dawn. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. I would say my advice to people, even in my own business, is about never giving up. It is about perseverance. It is about the word called endurance. It is the word called patience. Actually, if you understand, the old English word for patience is called suffering long or long suffering. And if you and I have that kind of qualities in our life, it will really help each one of us go through many things in life, because impatience will kill you. All right. So never give up. The darkest hour is just before the dawn. That means tough times don't last. Tough people do. All right. And I will also say that even in this journey of business, many setbacks, many crises, many pains of life, I'm always reminded of this statement that I love to use: smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. So whatever we go through, pain is not necessarily a bad thing. I think pain is a bad thing if we keep repeating the follies or the foolishness of life that we do not change. I remember somebody not too long ago in a public speaking say, he said, it is okay not to be okay, but it is not okay if you don't do anything about it. It is okay not to be okay. So today, if you and I are in problems, we are in a crisis, it's okay. But you got to start waking up and say, what do I do from here? How do I respond? So I think smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. And so in any journey, there needs to be tenacity. And I also think another lesson that I can share is that never be ashamed or shy to ask for help, to seek help. I really think nobody grows and nobody is successful by being isolated. You cannot grow in isolation. So practice humility. If I don't have, I tell people I don't have. I don't fake it. So I'm very glad. I'm not saying David Ong is a humble guy. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying I have learned the benefits, immense benefits of humility. That means I don't have to put on the facade. I don't have to pretend that I have when I don't have. And I seek for teamwork. I seek for help, and that's where, in a way, you could see we leverage with Keller Williams because they are the world's number one. Life is too short for me. So why should I reinvent the wheel? Because my life is so short. And I always remember just one life, very precious. Learn how to live it well, leverage with people. And as John says, if you look at my life, I learned contentment, I learned simplicity of life. I have the richness of life, like family life, fellowship, enjoying in this journey of business and learning how to smell the roses and sip the coffee if I can. I don't drink coffee anyway. Sip the Milo. Or sip the hot chocolate, from Starbucks, And life, to enjoy life is not expensive. It's very cheap. Very cheap, and you can be so rich with contentment and happiness.
Right. Now all of us are going through this journey. This is unprecedented moment for most of us, and it's not discriminatory because I think this crisis that we are in, number one, is a global crisis, but of course different countries has different intensity. But in Malaysia, I think the intensity recently has become very high, but the thing is hitting across board. Like the statistics are showing us, like the people who are of this income level to that income level, they are all affected right now. So David, based on your experience and based on your journey right now, as one of us who are also going through some of this journey, I'm assuming we are all going through some of it in different intensity. What is that one thing that we can do to go through these dark moments right now? What are some of the things that you are doing or you would advise us to do?
I think when you talk about sometimes these kind of situations where COVID-19 has brought some people really down to very little left in their bank account. And it could be a financial crisis as well. And you can't work. I have to admit that I have never gone through such a severe crisis or have seen one like this where there is a big issue about life and death and health. And there's a big issue at the same time with livelihoods. And I think it's very severe. The only thing that I think if I don't feel it is because over the few decades, I think by God's grace and his wisdom, I have managed to save and kept some reserves, even for the company and for myself and my family. But let me say this, Serene and I are able to tell stories where there were seasons in our lives, it was just hand to mouth, where in our bank account, maybe at best, a few hundred ringgit, And I think really one of the things, those days, that in the 80s, in the recession, that I believe that came about in our lives was maybe the character trait called resourcefulness. You don't wait for things to happen when things are not going well. If you don't even have the answer, you go and ask people around what to do, and you continue to do what you know what to do. That your hands are busy and are resourceful to do anything and everything you can. I remember I was doing real estate, and I would wish that I would have grown deeper at that time, but I could only do that much. And my wife, Serene, we had our first child, Christine. And I remember it was not easy for us. We were renting a house in Kelana Jaya. And I just left an office of Reedfield from SS224 because 500 ringgit of rental I cannot afford, literally cannot afford. So I told my partner, you're going to look for a job. I take over the company called Reedfield. I go back to my rented house. I double up as a office in my landed place on the staircase area there, and just put a desk there, And my wife had to do home catering business starting from scratch because I said, you and your mother-in-law, my mother-in-law can cook pretty well, right? And along that road, SS5A/16, I still remember near Kelana Jaya FAM. There were at least a few families who have tasted our cooking and said, yeah, why don't you all just cook and, we support you. We also need dinner at night. And eventually that grew into about 80 customers. And there were times in the evening after I'd finished my real estate, I would have to take the empty tiffin carrier, take the tiffin carrier filled with food and drive around and deliver it, put on people's pillars, and take the empty tiffin carrier and put it in the boot, all with cardboards, boxes and all that, I did that. I was not ashamed. It's an honest day's job, but it brought income. So my advice to people is that don't be paralyzed by the trials of life. In fact, when I was down at that time, I told myself I cannot afford to be depressed. If I allow that to come to my life, my whole family will suffer, not only me. I was no longer a bachelor. Now I had a family. I am a husband and a father to my children, and I cannot afford to feel down. Though I know the situation will try to tempt me to stay down, to stay paralyzed and don't do anything. That is the worst solution. And if today, I would say, if I'm in real estate, I will go deep. I will do all I can within the resources God has given me to be a resourceful person. Right. And I also want to say this, John, as a last thing here, that again, I want to remind the audience that the pains of life, the storms and troubles aren't necessarily altogether bad. In fact, I believe it takes a storm to really reveal who we are on the inside of us. I believe earthquakes are there to shake us, to shake the foundations of homes or buildings to see whether foundations have been built and built according to the specs. Now, very important. If we don't have the wisdom from God to see the lessons of life during the trials and the storms of life, then we miss some very, very valuable lessons. So I believe that storms in life can really reveal who we are on the inside, and that you and I can either come out a better person or a bitter person. And I want to end with this again. Smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. Never, never give up. And here, I think in this Reedfield Keller Williams family,
sorry guys,
we are not alone. Those days are around me. But today, I think I think we are here to help one another. Can you hear me?
Sorry, can you repeat that part again, the last part? Because I think you were stuck just now.
Okay. So I think during those days in my the recession and Asian financial crisis, I was still very much alone, though I had my wife. Definitely, I thank God for my wife. But you know, sometimes we need a team of people. You know, we are in a family called Whitfield Keller Williams, and I really think in today's crisis, we are here to really extend the help one to another. All we need to do is talk, ask, you know, and engage with one another and leverage on one another's strength. I think the word team, TEAM, the acronym is together, each achieves more. Together, each achieves more. And I want to say this in ending that even for me personally, I'm very open for anyone who has got any kind of struggles and you want to talk to me even personally. Just my handphone number is there. You can call me anytime. Thank you, John.
Thank you, David, for really sharing your heart. How many of you felt that this is something full of wisdom and is so natural and real from David? He's so authentic. How many of you felt blessed today? If you are, please extend your gratitude on the chat box to David so that he can see that he is now actually helping and reaching out to many people. How many of you are feeling that you are? Please express your gratitude, right? So David, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being a good role model to us, that you make a decision to do something about things when you are in crisis. It was a decision that you decided. Now, it's not that you have the way, you don't know what's the perfect way, but you made a decision to do something. And we are still going on. Business is still as usual. We are not shutting down. We are not closing off. We are not giving up, right? You are still behind that and you're still making things happen as a team together. Thank you so much for your leadership and your friendship, and also your great fatherly figure to all of us. I hope today everyone is blessed. And I thought your timing to come on board to share this message to us in this season, it is so timely and so meaningful for us. So thank you, David, for that sharing. Thank you so much. Okay, if you all are really feeling very, very blessed, this video will be available on our workplace, as well as will be eventually available on YouTube. If you know someone who's going through a tough time right now, share that video with them. Right, share that so that you can hear this message of how what hopelessness became, and how it became out of hopelessness built such a big organization that all of us now are part of, because of that action of making some decisions to do something about life. So thank you so much. Marcus, can I have the announcement, please? Right. So in light with where we are today, in light with where the situation we are today, I'm proud to say that tonight, we will be having a special announcement. Now, this is an internal announcement only for Whitfield and Keller Williams family to be part of. 9 p.m. to 9:30, your Market Center support will be sending you the links for this announcement. It's what we call a white flag initiative. Come and listen to some of the things that we have in store for you. From a financial standpoint, from a mental and emotional standpoint, as well as from a business standpoint, what we are doing as an organization in this white flag initiative. So I hope that all of us will be here tonight. I apologize, it's at night at 9 p.m., but I think because of the short time that we have to prepare, that's the fastest that we can go with this announcement. So do sign up for, do come for this announcement if you are a member of Whitfield and also Keller Williams Malaysia. This is to help you understand where the company is going and how we are helping everyone in this season of needs and necessity. Next slide, please. Right, so we are continuing on with our shift series. If you know that this whole couple of months, we'll be working on the shift series. And you can see that Power Monday will keep going. We will also have shift tactic, how to find motivated. Shift tactic 4, shift tactic 1, and shift tactic 7 will be consistently shared every week from now on moving on, but we'll just change the stories and we'll change the content, but the focus is on these 3 key shift tactics to help us right through the storm. Next slide, please. Right, I want to announce right now that congratulations to 3 key winners from 3 market centers. We have Ian Tan, not Tan, Tang, I think T-A-N-G, wrong spelling, from MC1, who actually added on for the 84 listings to the age prop. So we had a challenge that whoever can add the most listings in the next 2 weeks would win an award. So Ian Tan from Market Center 1 Said Shah from Market Center 2 who added on 41 listings, and Elaine Kao from Market Center 3 who added on 29 listings. So congratulations to all three of you. You'll be all winning 1,000 HPROC credits and USD 50 for a KW command campaigns. So congratulations to all three of you. Please reach out to your Market Center leadership to reach out to us to get your prizes respectively. So thank you for that. Congratulations. Next slide, please. Right, we are still going on our National Consumer Campaign. We will be having new touch points that is focusing on this new season of challenges that we are all in, to reach out to your clients and also to your colleagues. So stay tuned. Every Thursday, there will be new touch points. Next slide, please. Right, so thank you so much, guys, for being part of this morning. How many of you felt that this morning was a good start for your week? How many of you felt that you are energized right now? Please put in the chat box. How many of you felt that you are now ready to face the storm this week, right? So I hope this has helped you to look at when there is no hope, hope arises, because it is a decision, right? It is an impact. It is somehow people that have done it before, we look to them and see their stories and they become our hope. And all of us today are in the same situation. I mean, we are in different categories or different intensity, but we are all going through in the same situation. So I hope today's conversation will help you to do something and take some actions. Because if you heard it from our speaker, from David this morning, if you don't do anything about it today, that is the worst thing, that's the worst strategy ever. So this is the right time and the best time to take some massive action to start your week. So I wish you all the best. Let's see you guys this tonight for our announcement. Take care and have a great rest of the day and a great week ahead. Thank you very much, guys. See you at the next session.